Yes, of course, this is the time to talk about anger. I am a member of First UU. I am a pagan priestess, and I am a pleasure activist. I am part of Chalice Fire, the pagan ministry of this church, and I recently led a series of 10 rituals called Rage as Rocket Fuel. They were rituals open to those who identify as or were socialized as women. What our society teaches us about anger is deeply gendered, and so working with it also needs to be. And I've got to say, I love women's anger. It is so beautiful and so justified. And I don't know a single woman who isn't sitting on a volcano of rage. And yet we aren't taught how to use that rage, which is why it starts to build up. It's why it makes a volcano. As a white Southern woman, I was taught to be scared of it, to try to release it so that it drifts away like a balloon, or to cleanse it like scrubbing a bathtub, or even to just be done with it and cut it off. I was taught to be afraid of its power and that it would do harm. But our anger is a gift. Think about it. You don't get angry about things you don't care about. Our anger shows us what is most important to us and what we are willing to fight for. Somatically, in the body, anger moves up and out. The other emotion that moves up and out is joy. Anger and joy are not opposites, they are siblings. And when we don't have full access to our anger, we also don't have full access to our joy. Anger, like everything connected to our ability to feel, can go numb. When we sit on it long enough, we can't feel it anymore. And that's when we say, oh, no, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. But that smile doesn't quite look right, does it? It comes at a cost, that numbness. Because when our anger is numb, so too is our passion, our power, and our sense of purpose. And when we stop sitting on it and let it start to wake up, it feels awful. It's pins and needles. It's still half numb and hard to use. It feels like we're gonna hurt ourselves or hurt others. We're just swinging it around and we can't hardly walk on it. And if it were our leg, we wouldn't decide to just sit on it again and make it go numb, right? But that's what we do with our anger. We often numb it right back out and then spend our lives bouncing back and forth between feeling numb, pins and needles, feeling numb, pins and needles. But that raises an interesting question, something to be curious about. What actually happens if we wait out the uncomfortable pins and needles and let it finish waking up? What happens if we go back to letting our anger be weight-bearing and useful? And I'll tell you what, it feels really good. In the rage rituals, that's what we did. We located our anger and then we swung it around a little just to get the circulation back. And I have to tell you, I am so blown away with what happened. First, I have to begin with the women who came to ritual for the first time always astonished me with their courage. When it was their turn to speak what they were angry about into the circle, their voices often came out so small, so tiny. It was hard for them to even find the words to say it out loud. And what they had to say, it was devastating. These were the terrible things, the egregious wrongs, the injustices that still hurt years or even decades later. It felt like they had been literally choking on their anger. They were silenced by it, unable to get the important words out because that big thing blocked their throats. But they found the courage to say it anyway, and I am in awe of that bravery. And then when they came back for another round, their voices were a little louder, and there was a little more range to what they were angry about. Yes, the anger over the terrible injustices, that was still there. Of course it was. But maybe they were also angry about, I don't know, politics or traffic. And then for the women who came several times, their voices started to clear. They started to speak from down here in their belly, and they were angry about this wide range of things: the personal, the political, the petty. Oh my goodness, I love the petty. The petty is my favorite, and I'm not gonna let myself get distracted. I even heard from women who had come once or twice. And they're like, oh no, I'm not sure I wanna come back. I think I'm out of anger. I think I said everything I needed to say. But the thing is, our anger has layers. And yes, those big, terrible things might choke us, and then there's this feeling of relief when it comes out. But also, anger is a part of living. It's not just a backlog. It's something that happens all the time. Anger is part of being our whole selves. And once those women who weren't sure they should come back, once they were in the ritual, their amnesia cleared up. Yes, it did. And then they found more layers of feeling, more layers of creativity, and more layers of their most vibrant, powerful self, just waiting to be expressed. The rage rituals helped unlock the freeze and restore feeling to what was numb. Life is full of big things and little things that are just not as they should be. Small hurts and big hurts, evil overlords and bureaucratic inefficiencies, and someone else's dirty socks on the floor. And when we can feel our feelings about all of those things, we become more whole. Because the feelings are always there. Let me say that again. The feelings are always there. The question is whether we're listening to our own inner voices. And I'll tell you a secret. We don't choose our feelings. Oof, that's a hard one, isn't it? Especially for you yous. We want to be able to pick and choose which feelings are the right feelings, which feelings we're going to have. The useful feelings, the good feelings, the socially approved feelings. But it turns out our feelings exist on a level that cannot be reasoned with. And if we use our logical reason like a brainiac sorting machine, letting the good apples go through and hiding the bad ones, then we end up with a big inner room full of rotten apples. Ew. What if, instead of locking away the anger, we saw it as a gift? It tells us what's most important to us, right? Maybe what we need now is more women's anger. Maybe we have a great deficit of women's anger because we've been locking it away for so long. Maybe our world, our community is much poorer because it is deficient in the voice of women's anger. And maybe what we need now is anger that doesn't feel helpless or harmful, but anger that has found its full voice. And that helplessness, that awful feeling of helplessness that often comes with our rage, that right there, that's the pins and needles feeling. The half awake, half asleep, maybe I'm about to take a flamethrower to all of this anger. The I might explode my life anger. The I might hurt the ones I care about anger. That is what happens when we're first turning it back on and it runs a little muddy before the pipes clear. And what I found in the rage rituals is that we are geniuses. First, we would find the anger, we would unlock it from its cage, and then we would ask, what does it want to happen next? Does the power of our anger call something in to make things better or make it right? Maybe it calls in a magic sock picking up machine. Or my favorite, maybe it calls in a herd of flying unicorns to spread rainbows across the sky with their magical flatulence. I did that one a lot. Also, sometimes the power of our anger makes demands. It says, this lawmaker needs to feel the pain of the suffering that they are causing. It says, this billionaire needs to leverage their wealth not for rockets, but to end world hunger. Our anger has things it wants to say. And when we use our anger as a gift, it ceases to be the flamethrower that will burn down the house, and instead it becomes the pilot light on the stove. It becomes the fuel to create exactly what we need to nourish ourselves and our loved ones. If you had asked me what I thought would happen in a rage as rocket fuel ritual, I would not have said creative genius. But that's what emerged. Together we were so generative, so deeply, profoundly creative. We cooked up elaborate plans for revenge, for restitution, for reorganization, for reprioritization, and we laughed and we cussed the entire time. We had so much fun. As women, our rage might be uncomfortable, but it is also precious. It is an expression of the very spark and fire that fuels our passion. Please celebrate your anger. It is an expression of your truest self, below all the thoughts and stories and assumptions about who you should be or how you should feel. It stays honest, even if you've lost the connection to the rest of your inner voice. That anger is always honest. Your anger is beautiful. And your anger is justified. It is the fuel that can create the world we want to live in. Thank you.